So before I talk about this week's episode of Sailor Moon, I wanted to ask you guys an interesting question because this has been something that's been on my mind ever since Sailor Moon has been resurfacing with the re-release of the old series and now this new Sailor Moon Crystal. Do you think that at this particular point in this day and age with the new Toonami setup that it would be able to thrive and actually be relevant enough to the way they have the setup with Toonami in this day and age? Could they actually add it to the block, and would it survive being on the block? As far as would it bring in viewership, how would that work? Because back in the days, it was different when it initially, premiered on Toonami back in the days, because Toonami was different. It was just starting out. It was kind of like a nice blend of different things. The Toonami that we have nowadays, for the most part, is just really an action block for, it definitely seems like it's catering towards young males and things of that nature. So I'm curious, especially with this reboot of Sailor Moon Crystal, where it's kind of like a little bit more, prettier and is making the girls look a little bit more girlier. Do you think that it could survive? To be honest with you, I'm not sure if they would ever even now in this day and age put Sailor Moon onto the block, as cool as that would be. And I think that it would be a smart move, because putting something like Sailor Moon on TV with the freaking fan base that it has of females that just absolutely love Sailor Moon, I think that it could bring a whole new audience to Toonami. But as of right now, I don't see them making the decision when Sailor Moon Crystal does come over here to put it on the block, simply because I think that they would just be a little bit scared that it would turn off the other viewers, or people that normally watch Toonami would just skip over that one and change the channel while Sailor Moon Crystal is on. But we just gotta wait and see. For me, I think it'd be an incredible and genius move to bring in all the great female viewership that they could with that. Now, with all that being said, this episode, I was waiting for this episode, and this might be the last episode that I talk about of Sailor Moon Crystal, simply because I really just wanted to chalk up to, at the very least, Sailor Mars' episode, because that is hands down the best of the Sailor Scouts. This chick is awesome. She comes in and is like, she reminds me a little bit of Kikyo from Inuyasha in a way, with the whole thing of being, protecting and getting the spirits away or whatever, and being a priestess, so to speak. So she kind of reminded me of her, and even had the same attire and everything. I don't know if one was inspired from the other, but definitely reminded me of that Kikyo, or Kikyo reminds me of her, shall I say, because I think Sailor Moon came out first, if I'm correct. Yeah, so this episode is definitely diving more into the story now, learning more that they really want to get this crystal, the baddies or whatever. And I like how it's very simple at the same time, yet you can see there's a little bit of different things inside there if you look closely a little bit more regarding the message and stuff like that, because it's very simple. For the most part, the first 3 episodes have been, baddie shows up and a new Sailor Scout shows up and takes them down, or helps to take them down, and then, next episode do the same thing. And this week's episode was kind of similar. It was a little bit different because Sailor Mars is, I guess, I don't want to say mythology, but, just her story is a little bit different, because she's always had these problems and, warding off the spirits or whatever. So it was kind of building up to that part in particular. And I enjoyed this episode for the most part. It wasn't the greatest or anything. And so far, the first 2 episodes have been the same, because Sailor Moon starts off this way and then it ultimately starts leading up. I would say this is probably the best episode of the 3, because you're getting a little bit more into the villains and how desperate they are to get this crystal, and they actually were kidnapping kids, so that's a little bit dark right there. And I like how they brought in the Yuri undertones into the series, opposed to the original series had none of that at all. They were trying to stay clear of that, because it's interesting how the times have changed. Back in the 90s, stuff like that was unacceptable. It was just like, oh, what are you doing? But this day and age, people live and let live, and that's the beauty of the day and age we're in. And Usagi is just falling in love with every chick that crosses her path, and I think that adds a very interesting dynamic to the character. She's not just a typical, oh, I'm whiny, I don't want to do this, but when it comes time, I'll be the best. With this character, it's kind of like you have those elements, but then you also have, ooh, she's kind of hot, and this is a chick. So I think that adds a nice, interesting element, and I'm glad that they incorporated that in this adaptation to the anime, because it makes for an interesting character. You don't really see that every day, especially with all the way people are always trying to hide this and that. It's like, no, Usagi likes bitches, I like bitches, Usagi, we can get together, especially hot chicks like Sailor Mars. Yo, give me that Sailor Mars. Her transformation, the best of the 3 thus far as well. I feel like this was the best. It was like the best transformation out of all the Sailor Scouts thus far. Sailor Moon, Sailor Mercury, and now Sailor Mars. Sailor Mars, best transformation thus far. Really just the flames and everything. It looks really nice. And when she's just about to go in, fuck shit up. So Sailor Mars, best episode thus far of Sailor Moon Crystal. And I just really like that they're keeping some of those elements of the Yuri undertone, because that's part of Usagi's personality. It shows that that's what she likes. Maybe she's bi-curious. Who the fuck knows? And it's interesting how they're having this tuxedo mask guy, and he's here and there, but he's not really doing too much as of yet. I definitely foresee, you know, and from what I know, he'll be a little bit more relevant later on. But yeah, this episode, again, just introducing the best of the Sailor Scouts, and I'd imagine for the next few episodes, it's going to be a similar format where, like, we meet a new girl, and they got to help take down the baddies again. So until we get all the Sailor Scouts, it's going to kind of be like this. But it was still, for the most part, enjoyable. Nothing crazy, nothing, you know, over the top. But I'd imagine, like, especially for some reason, I just imagine, like, little kids and especially little girls would freak the fuck out at how awesome they would find this shit to be, because it just looks gorgeous, the transformations look epic as hell, and the characters are just interesting and different. I'd imagine, like, a little girl nowadays would see Sailor Moon Crystal and say, this is amazing, and this is why I think that it definitely should be on TV as well, because it's going to usher in a whole new audience, bring the old audience back, and it'll just be a great thing. But let me know what you guys think, first of all, with my first question. Do you think that Sailor Moon in this day and age would thrive on Toonami, or do you think that it needs to be on TV, just not on Toonami? I think one way or another it should be on TV, regardless of when it airs or where it airs. It should be on TV. It's just a matter of, you know, again, scheduling what they're going to do, because this could be a huge thing, bringing in a lot of females, and it would just be a great thing. Also, I gotta ask, Sailor Mars, best gal or what? Just overall thoughts of the episode. An enjoyable one, chill one. Again, I'm not really reviewing these, just kind of giving my thoughts on them. I felt it was enjoyable, and I'm just looking forward to seeing the rest of the Sailor Scouts join them so we can get on to the bigger parts of the story and move a little bit better, because right now it's just been chill. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't subscribed, you can do so as well. That'd be awesome. I'm from that world, and as always, people, Sailor Mars is best gal. So before I talk about this week's episode of Sailor Moon, I wanted to ask you guys an interesting question, because this has been something that's been on my mind ever since Sailor Moon has been resurfacing with the re-release of the old series and now this new Sailor Moon Crystal. Do you think that at this particular point in this day and age with the new Toonami setup, that it would be able to thrive and actually be relevant enough to the way they have the setup with Toonami in this day and age? Could they actually add it to the block, and would it survive being on the block? As far as, would it bring in viewership? How would that work? Because back in the days, it was different when it initially, you know, premiered on Toonami back in the days, because Toonami was different. It was just starting out. It was kind of like a nice blend of different things. The Toonami that we have nowadays, for the most part, is just really an action block for, like, it definitely seems like it's catering towards young males and things of that nature. So I'm curious, especially with this reboot of Sailor Moon Crystal, where it's kind of like a little bit more, you know, prettier, and